What's up, guys? Today we're building another editing PC. This one's actually going to be ours, just like the one we built in the video yesterday. That one's audio was a little scuffed, so we're trying out some things here. Bear with us. But if you're interested in something like this or a gaming PC, check us out at TEKDEP.com or give us a call. We'll help you out. So in this PC, we've actually got the same processor. So it's going to be a 13900K again. We went with a EVGA 750 watt power supply. We've got a Z690 MSI board. This is DDR4 instead of DDR5. The reason we went with that is for what we're doing, we couldn't justify the price hike to DDR5. The board's a little bit more expensive and the memory is as well. We went with 64 gigs of DDR4 at 2666. From the benchmarks we looked at and the testing we didn't need faster RAM for our exports, for editing, things like that. And oddly enough, we actually found that 2066 was the fastest when it comes to that. As far as fans go, they're just random ones I had laying around I threw in. They'll do the job, just keep it cool. And then we went with the Thermalright 120 SE ARGB, just because it is the best budget cooler out there. It trades blows with the NHD 15, almost forgot the name, from Noctua, and that cooler comes in at about $120. This was $40, so you can't really beat that. And then for storage, we went with 3.5 terabytes of M.2 NVMe. Our fast drive, our boot drive here, that's going to be our Adobe Scratch Disk. That's a Gen 4x4 drive. There is Gen 5. We didn't need it for what we're doing, but we will have the ability to upgrade in the future. And this little bracket right here, just like we talked about in the previous video, this is actually going to be the cover plate, the mounting bracket, that holds the CPU to the motherboard. So we'll talk about it later, but you're going to see us replace this socket here with that guy. It's almost necessary with a build like this for sure. Especially for the price, you should buy it. And then graphics card, we went used just because we don't need that much graphical horsepower for what we're doing. So we have an EVGA 1080 Ti. And this one actually came with the power bracket, so it relocates the cables instead of being here. They're over here. Just makes the cable runs a little bit cleaner, nothing really fancy. It's 100% optional. But that's going to be our graphics card for the build today. And then the case, we went ahead and went with the O11 Dynamic. One of the best cases out there. Why not? So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so we're going to start by assembling the motherboard as always here. First step in any build. We're actually going to go ahead and remove the stock mounting mechanism first to make room for our different style bracket here. So it includes the tool. You're going to need this funny little Torx Allen key. And you're just going to loosen all of these guys here, all the way off. So some people like to install the CPU first before you do this, just to not damage any pins. But as long as you don't drop the socket and you know what you're doing, you're not going to break anything. So you're going to keep these screws, and these are the screws you're going to use in order to secure the CPU down to the motherboard. Do be extremely careful when you take this off. If you don't load the CPU in, like I said, you can damage those pins and your motherboard's kind of toast. There we go, just like that. So next we're going to go ahead and open up our CPU box here. And I don't know why they do this packaging. I think it's kind of extra, kind of stupid, but there's a CPU wafer. When you're putting in a CPU, there's always triangles. You can see there's a little tiny gold one right down in there. You're going to line that up with the triangle in the socket as well. It is keyed. It's only going to go in one way. So if you look at the top and the bottom here, same with the socket, there are little keys. It's only going to go in one way. So you're going to line it up, just drop it in. I like to give it a little wiggle just to make sure it's seated. And then we're going to go ahead and place our new retention mechanism in. And then we're going to steal these screws. I do keep this socket as well as the socket cover. I always preach in case you need to return your motherboard or RMA it. You need that whole mechanism and that socket cover in order to actually process the RMA. All right, so go ahead and place these back in. And do an X pattern when you tighten them down. The reason you want to do that is you want even mounting pressure, because this is actually what's making your CPU make contact with those pins that are below. If you mount it off, you could run into either crashes, system instabilities, or it just won't post at all. So again, just go in that pattern, and they will bottom out. You don't need to go too crazy on this. You'll feel when they are fully in contact. All right, so I'm just gonna give them a once over from this angle here. All right, so that's the CPU installed. We're gonna go ahead and move on to RAM here. So again, we went with 64 gigs of RAM. We're just gonna open these guys up here. The reason we went with 64 gigs of RAM and in 2 sticks is if we ever wanna upgrade to 128, we can just buy another kit of the same type and throw it on in there. All right, so again, with RAM, always just line up the notch with the holes here. You're always gonna start with DIMM A2 and B2. It will degrade your performance if you have the RAM in the wrong channels. So definitely make sure you either reference your motherboard, or I always go with these two just because I've built so many PCs. You kind of figure out which RAM slots need to be populated. All right, and the final thing we're gonna do on the motherboard for right now is storage. So MSI uses toolless design. So you're just gonna line up your key with the slots here. And this one actually has a screw, never mind. Only one has a screwless design. Okay, so small break there. We had to go ahead and get pliers and then use a screwdriver to get this standoff off. The screw was just really lodged in there. Sometimes that'll happen. This is a used motherboard. We have used it before. That's the main reason why this happens. Usually won't happen from the factory. So we're just gonna tighten that M.2 standoff back down there. We're gonna go right back to installing them. So again, these are keyed. It's a B plus M key. So you're just gonna find that little notch, line it up with the one in the slot. It'll click right in. And then you're gonna take your screw, push it down, and screw it in. So we're gonna do that one more time for this slot down here. For this drive, same thing, line it up with the key, it'll click in. Push it down, and screw it in. There we go, just like that. All right, so the next two are toolless. So we're gonna open up our fast SSD first here. This is gonna be our boot drive. We're gonna load the operating system on here and use it as our scratch disk. We're gonna pop it out. And this uses a toolless one. So same thing, just line it up, push it down. And let me get it lined up real quick. All right, so it's gonna push down like that. You can rotate it 90 degrees. Now it's locked in. Same thing for this one down here. We're gonna take our SSD, we're gonna make sure it's open, click it in, and rotate it 90 degrees. And that's all of our storage installed. All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and install the cooler now. You could do this in the case again. I just prefer to do it outside of the case, makes everything way easier. This little box right here is gonna have all of our hardware, thermal paste, brackets, everything we need. Crack it open. All right, so since this is a LGA 1700 socket, we're not going to use any of the other mounting hardware, just that guy in the back plate. So these are our fan clips right here. And one of these is LGA 1700. That one right there. It is labeled at the top right there. The other one you can just put back in the package. Same with the AM4 hardware in case you change your cooler. This is going to be all the brackets we need right here and thermal paste. So we're going to keep that bag out. And this is all of our hardware. So they are labeled. As you can see, we're going to use the blue one here for LGA 1700. Again, the other two you can just put back in the bag. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to take that back plate and peel off these adhesive strips. This is just to secure the back plate to the back of the motherboard. Since this is plastic, they're not really protective. There's nothing it can come in contact with. I'll line it up like that, and back plate's now installed. All right, so these little blue grommets, or spacers, washers, whatever you want to call them, they're going to go over the standoffs just like that. They kind of clip on just like that. You hear it snap. That one didn't, and that one did. Okay. In any case, now we're going to take these brackets right here and our thermal paste. These are for AM4. We're not going to use these. These are for any Intel socket, whether that be 1155 or 1150X, all the way up to 1700. Those can go just back with our other hardware. And we're going to line it up like this. Oops, there we go. We're going to take our screws and just get them started in here. You don't need to go all the way down. Just get them finger tight so they don't go anywhere.
Is this another X pattern?
This one could be. This one's not super critical. So all this does is hold the back plate to the motherboard. So this one you can kind of just go back and forth. But when we actually put the cooler on, that one will be a cross pattern, correct?
See, I'm learning.
He knows. He's gonna build his first PC soon.
We'll see.
We'll convert you.
Yeah, fortunately, this one is my PC.
This is your PC.
So.
They really wrapped this John up in here. Yeah.
So what exactly is a John? It seems like it is a word with many meanings.
Many meanings. A John can be anything you want it to be.
That's great.
Yes, sir. Like I got new Johnnies on, pretty fresh, you know.
They are pretty fresh. Mine aren't.
It could be worse. Okay. So I'm just going to do a sanity check real quick. I'm going to make sure my spacing's correct. Test fit it. All right, looks good. So I'm just going to go ahead and secure these down now. Just like this. And refer to the instructions, don't be me. Because there is certain spacing you're supposed to use for these, but we're just eyeballing it. It'll be fine. These screws will bottom out on those washers, the spacers. They're designed to, so just crank until they stop. All right, so we're gonna do our thermal paste. Again, because this is LGA 1700, I'm gonna put a big long line on here because it's a very long CPU. Because this is Billy's and it's gonna be in-house, I want it to perform good, so I'm gonna put 2 dots on either side as well. You can never have too much thermal paste. You can have too little, definitely though. Once again, don't ever forget to peel this off. If you do, your PC is gonna run like garbage, probably overheat, turn off. Make sure you take that sticker off. That's the TEKDEP tip of the day. All right. So kind of hard to see, but we're just gonna line up on these 2 standoffs on either side. You're gonna go back and forth. You may need a little bit of pressure just to actually push down and get it threading. All right, so now that we got a couple threads on that one, we're gonna switch to this side here. Oh, hang on, I don't think they're lining up. I might have to reshoot. All right, so me being the smart man I am, I never read the instructions. These brackets are supposed to point inwards. So if you look at the 2 divots here on both sides, those are supposed to point inwards. I did not do that. So now we're gonna go ahead and actually mount the cooler by lining it up on those 2 points. Dude, it won't go. I can't get enough pressure on the screwdriver. I gotta get a bigger screwdriver. All right, so after grabbing a better screwdriver just to get it started, we got it. So yeah, you're just gonna go back and forth on these, a few cranks on each side to get even mounting pressure. All right, then we're gonna go back to this side, get a few more cranks. Then we're gonna come back to this side again. Even mounting pressure on these 13th gen and even the new AMD chips is super important. They do run extremely hot. All right, so we're bottomed out and a 1/4 turn past. That's about all the mounting pressure you need. Now we're just gonna install the fans here. So when I install fans on air coolers, I like to point the cables up towards the top because that's where I'm gonna cable manage them. So I'm gonna slide that one in, take 2 of my clips, 3 I guess. And I'll do this side first to show you guys. You're gonna come in the front side of the fan. Just like this. And then once I have the other one on, it'll be fully mounted, but we're just gonna pull it back. Let me go down a little bit higher, line this up right. Pull it back just like that, and that's mounted. So I just have to get the other side on as well. Repeat that same process here. You can put them on before you mount them, but again, I like making things hard for myself, so we're doing it this way. Yeah, no, we're gonna do it the easy way. Again, so to release it, just pull like that, come straight up, slide it up if you're not like me and like making things hard. Connect both those in. And then we're just gonna go straight down and clip it on. There you go, so that's the rear fan installed. We're gonna put the other one up front here. Same thing, run your cables out that side right there, just like that. Just gonna hold it in place with this right now, and then I'll get the other side. Here we go. That's the cooler installed with the fans. We're gonna go ahead and untwist these twist ties here, but we're not gonna cable manage or plug any of these in just yet. Actually, no, I will do that. Okay, so we're gonna use a Y fan splitter. Let me grab it real quick. This little guy right here, which is gonna take our CPU fan header here and split to the PWM on both of these fans. That way they're running in sync and we're only eating up one header. So you're gonna take this end of the cable right here, female end. We're gonna plug it into the male side of the CPU header. They're all labeled. Refer to your motherboard in case you don't know, but it says CPU fan right above my finger right there on the board. Kind of hard to see. Hopefully our cameraman can get that.
Don't think so.
Yeah. Anyways, you get what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter which PWM goes where on these fans here. You can plug either of the headers into either of these Ys here. They're both going to run at the same speed. And we're all set on that. I am going to daisy chain these together on ARGB just while I'm here. So you pull this whole cover off. It's going to go into the female end. Just make the two arrows match, just like that. And we're going to take this one here and plug it into our ARGB headers here. Sorry, JRGB. Again, take the arrow. Just going to go straight down, just like that. We'll cable manage all this when it's in the case, but that is all of our fans hooked up and ready to go. All right, guys, so now we're gonna move on to throwing the motherboard in the case. So we're just gonna tear into this Lee 011 Dynamics real quick. I always try to put the panels back in the boxes, but I don't have any boxes here today, so they're just gonna go wherever I can put them. Do be careful with your tempered glass, because when tempered glass shatters, it turns into dust. You're never gonna clean it all up.
You know that from experience?
Yes, unfortunately. Okay, so our motherboard actually has a pre-installed backplate. I'm just gonna peel this little cover off so we don't have that there. And we're gonna line the backplate up with the cutout here, and then line the motherboard up with the standoffs across here. You're just gonna go ahead and cram the cables through this grommet right here, just so they don't get lost in time and space behind the motherboard. You're gonna line it up on that IO shield plate back there. And this doesn't have a standoff, so I'm not gonna be able to show you how it installs, but it goes like that. And I'm gonna have to lay it on its side now. All right, so now that the motherboard's all lined up, I'm gonna grab my screws and screw it in. So there is 3 per lane, I like to call it. I usually start in the middle just to make sure everything's lined up. In a cross pattern, you can go however you like, doesn't necessarily matter. And you're gonna notice that none of our SSDs have the motherboard covers on it. That's because the previous owner of this board lost all of them. So they're just kind of hanging out there. It's fine though. There we go. And we're gonna do our front panel connections just while we have nothing else in the case. Makes it easier to do. So we're gonna push all of these wires in the back here, these guys through. So this is your front panel connections right here. That's gonna be your HD audio and your USB 3.0. This is gonna be your Type-C port. So that one's gonna go roughly about there. USB 3.0, I believe, is gonna be right here. Same with front panel. And then HD audio is almost always on this side of the board. So now we're gonna flip back to this side. And I was wrong on USB 3.0, so I'm gonna reroute that one real quick. It's gonna go in the same one as the Type-C. So we're gonna start with these here. It is keyed, the USB 3.0 connector, so it's only gonna go in one way. Find where your little notch lines up. And plug it right in. You can damage that connector pretty easy, so if it doesn't go in, make sure it's, oriented the right way. This is our Type-C connector. It is keyed. It will only click in one way. If it is correct, you'll get a nice little click, just like that. It's more of a crunch, but the idea is there. Our HD audio, again, always has that dead pin. Make sure you line it up with the dead pin on this connector here. All right, and our front panel connectors are not found. Where'd they go? Right here, okay. So the front panel connections are gonna be this pin grid here. It is labeled on the motherboard. It is also labeled in the instructions, but you're just gonna plug in these corresponding pins with these things here. So power switch is gonna be the far right one. That is honestly the only one we care about, but I will plug in the power LED just so Billy has some idea when this thing is on and off. And I guess I'll not be lazy and plug in the reset switch as well, which is gonna be on the bottom here. There we go. And that is going to be all of the front panel wired and good to go. All right, guys, so we're gonna be throwing in all of our case fans. We are gonna populate 120s in every single available channel. So there's gonna be 9 total in here. We're gonna go ahead and get at that. We're probably gonna time lapse this for you because it's gonna take a minute. All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and throw in the graphics card now. Always remember to release that little locking mechanism there. Make sure your PCIe slots are clear, since this is a used case that is already clear for us. And then you're just gonna line it up with the slot in there and push. You're gonna hear a nice little click, hopefully, maybe a crunch, more of a crunch again. But there it is, so it's already secure. We're just gonna go ahead and screw it in, if I can find my screwdriver. And I like to support it right here. When I screw it in, really just helps the card not sag, anything like that. Makes it look a little bit better. And again, when you do the top one, just support it a little bit. It will help combat the sagging that happens with heavier graphics cards. And yeah, that's it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and install the power supply first. Given that this is a modular power supply, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plug all the cables in where they need to go on this side and route them to the back, and then we'll plug them into the power supply once it's already inside. We're gonna use some white cable extensions for the graphics card just to make it look a little bit better. So we're gonna plug them into our EVGA L bracket here. Going upside down, little did I know. Just like that. And plug in the second one as well. I believe this card originally uses an 8 and a 6 pin. This adapter is just set with 2 8 pins. It doesn't matter as long as you give it all the power it needs. So I'm going to cram these through these cable grommets, and we will cable manage them on the back side, or we won't. We'll find out later. So we're going to start with our 24 pin cable. Again, it's labeled motherboard on the motherboard side. So this is going to plug in just like this right here. And then we're just going to shove it through the grommet again, and we will cable manage it in a bit. This one's quite stiff, so it's pretty hard to get it to go where you want it to go. And then we're going to take our CPU 8 pins, plug them in as well. Grab the other one, which is this one here. That's the wrong side. So don't be like me. There's 2 sides to the CPU power plug. One of them goes to the power supply. That's a single plug. The one that splits into 4 and 4 is the one that goes to the actual 8 pins. Make sure you put in the right side. There we go. And then these again, we're just going to cram through the grommet and cable manage them in the back. Like so. So we're going to flip it around now. Finish pulling our extensions through. Just make sure those are routed right. There we go. All right. And then we're just going to plug them into our power supply. So CPU goes to CPU. Both of those. 24 pin is a split connector. So it's going to go here and here. And we need to plug in our VGA connections as well, that we're then going to plug into our extensions.
I apologize to all of you for that. Oh, God.
Oh, jeez.
I did it twice.
It's fine, it adds, right? There's an earthquake. Watch out, guys.
Yeah. We are in California.
Exactly. So the last cable I plugged in there is a SATA cable. That's going to be for our fan controllers. And then we're just going to install this power supply like this. I'm going to rotate it in a second so you guys can see the back. There we go. And I'm going to grab my power supply screws that are conveniently right under the camera. And I lost my screwdriver. And we dropped the camera.
No, we didn't drop.
Okay, so now I'm just going to screw in our power supply. If our camera doesn't fall over, hopefully you guys. Okay, 2 more screws.
Having trouble with tripod.
Just a little bit. It happens to the best of us. All right, and that's our power supply installed. Before you forget, again, always plug in your extensions or else your graphics card will not work. As you can see, the cable management back here is just absolutely wonderful.
Stellar.
It's glorious. I couldn't do it better. So the SATA power for the fan hub is just going to plug in to the say to power from the power supply, and that's it. We're going to cable manage it off cam, but we'll give you guys a quick power on just to show you everything's up and running if I can find a power cable. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the power button and hopefully everything turns on.
Yeah.
There we go. I ordered the fans wrong. So your debug LED right here is telling you what post it's on. So right now it is on DRAM. Looks like it's training memory real quick. Hopefully we get a boot in a second. So now we're on VGA, which is the graphics card. It's just checking that out. And you see a green light. That means it fully posts. Boot. Boot. There it is. Green light. That means we're fully posted. Even without plugging in a monitor, we know this PC is good to go. So we're going to hook it up and let Billy, our camera and editing man, get to work.
Yay.
Yes, sir. Peace out, guys.
No.
See you in the next one.
No.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm just here to do the ad. So thank you guys for watching. Head on over to TEKDEP.com. Check out our YouTube channel. We're trying some stuff. We'll see what sticks.
Yeah, for sure.
TEKDEP.com. We do mail-in repairs. We do data recovery. We do
parts, anything.
yeah.
Anything you need. Give us a call.
Yeah. All your tech-related needs.
Yes,
There's a tagline. One click, get it quick to your door.
Yes, sir.
Hasta la vista, baby.
A one-day shipping.